Colorado, home to beautiful and stunning nature. You know what it's also home to? Over 400 microbreweries. That is a lot of beer. Beer, it's the world's oldest known recipe, and for thousands of years, us humans have enjoyed this remarkable drink, even before bread. But how is it made? Why does it taste so good? And with all the major breweries out there, how are there so many craft breweries in Colorado? Those are the questions we'd like to answer. But the most important question? Who are the people bringing us these remarkable beverages? In this series, we go around the state talking to these artisans to see just what makes them stand out and how they survive with a lot of competition. So crack open a cold one, sit back, and sip on something refreshing. This is the Crafter's Journey. When you think of beer, do you ever think chips and salsa or beets maybe? No? Then you've probably never been to Cogstone Brewing Company. These award-winning ales are what put this humble brewery on our radar. Eager to satisfy a growing curiosity, a team was able to contact, meet, and chat with one of the owners. Let's converse with the mastermind himself.
Hello, my name is Robert Hemphill. I'm a 50% owner of the brewery Cogstone Brewing Company. It's here in Colorado Springs. I've been brewing for 10 years total, 5 years home brewing and 5 years professionally. I fell in love with the beer making process as a home brewer, and there was a lot of passion behind it and drive, and I knew I could do it professionally on a professional scale. I signed up to a home brew club called Brew Brothers of Pikes Peak, and that's where I met my business partner, Mark. So we joined forces and we started this brewery, Cogstone Brewing Company. I won a medal in the World Beer Cup 2018 for the Beet Cream Ale. Other styles I do, I get creative. Carrots, chilies, maple and bacon. The beet came from somebody else. It was a local breweries in town, Great Storm and Smiling Toad. They did a collaboration with a beet saison. And when I saw that red color of that beer, I just said, oh man, I gotta do that. But not a saison, I want to do a cream ale version of that. Work is a full-time job for me. I spend around 50 hours a week minimum. And so I have no time when I get home to home brew. So that's a done thing. But when I was home brewing, I was experimenting even back then, but learning the basic styles and enjoying what I was doing. That's pretty much where I created the chips and salsa beer at home. And I just been tweaking it. And then when I opened this place up, I did a more scaled down version of the chips and salsa. And it works out good. What drives me to beer, it's a passion. I love beer. And when I drink beer, I just want to try to find the best beer to drink, because it's like eating steak. Do you want to buy a cheap steak or an expensive steak? And I'd rather pay a little bit more to get a better tasting steak than a tough, hard, chewy one. And it's the same with beer. I want to drink good beer constantly. And so I look for the best beers, not only mine, but other people's around the country, and I just love beer. It's a passion to make it, to drink it, to savor it. I like the chemistry behind beer, creating ideas, new techniques, new flavors, new spins on things. The difference between big brewers and craft breweries, for the most part, craft breweries experiment a lot. They go bold on the flavors and the alcohol content. Big breweries, they could do the same thing if they wanted to, but it costs a lot of money to do what we do at a small level. They sell massive amount of quantities of beer. We're able to take more risk at doing smaller batches. So now the next goal is to get a more larger professional brew system, like a 7-barrel system versus our two 1.3 barrel systems that we currently brew on. So that's our next goal. And once we get that bigger system, then we can start distributing locally in town our beers to be on tap at select restaurants and tap houses.
That was pretty interesting. So, where's the next stop on our journey? Well, we take you to the city of Denver. It's a wonderful city where you can go straight from a brewery right into a dispensary. Gotta love it. And that, my friends, is a potent recipe for meeting some very interesting people. Like, not you. Not you. You maybe? No? No? Okay. How about this guy?
Hi, my name's Jacob. I work for a brewery in Rhino called Our Mutual Friend here in Colorado. I've always liked alcohol, and then I started working for bars, so beer came into that probably later. Some of my favorite spots having a beer to drink when I was younger was at a friend's house. A lot of the time when I was drinking when I was younger, it was me going somewhere. Some of the best beer I had when I was always legally able to drink. I was at a friend's house. I've been brewing for about 5 or 6 years in general. I know way too much about making alcohol. So the general way alcohol is going to be made is when yeast eats sugar. But grain does not inherently have sugar. So the process of brewing for me is pulling sugar out of grain. It starts before the brewer with a maltster who's going to heat it in a way to kind of get it growing, let it sort of sit there, and once they see a little stem and this grain starts to grow, it activates the enzyme inside of it that wants to start turning the starch inside of the grain into a piece of sugar so that the plant inside can start digesting it. So what a maltster now does is he heats it, so as soon as the enzyme is made, it kills anything inside the plant that's going to turn the enzyme and feed the plant. You kill the plant. How long you're roasting it and in which different ways you make what kind of grain you're going to get up in the end. So now I get this grain, and to activate that enzyme, I still need heat. It's the same thing. And we mix it in water between different temperatures to break down different starch molecules in the grain, and it turns into sugar. And that's kind of the base for me for brewing, is thinking about, like I said, wine, cider, and even mead. All are these simple sugar sources you can turn into alcohol. Brewing is the process of making sugar sources. Fermenting is like all the rest, but I'm a brewer because I make beer, because I'm literally steeping grain in water and then getting that sugary mixture into a fermenter eventually. So what got me into brewing was a love for alcohol when I was younger, but then also just really getting into craft things. I love painting, I love doing other things, so when I was around people, and it was first cider at first, it was super simple. We would mix juice, we'd add yeast, we waited, we didn't carbonate it or anything, we had booze. And when you were under 21, you could probably find a way to buy booze, but it was super cool to make it. And I kind of stood at that level for a long time, and I didn't really learn more. But then I remember someone that I knew won a homebrewing kit, and that was the first time I had been like, oh, what's going on here? And I know I downplay, the fact that, I wasn't doing it for a long time until I started brewing. I think I say that because I didn't really know what the hell I was doing until I started brewing, but we were definitely around people that were making alcohol, and it was a super interest to me. Everywhere I've worked, besides the one job I had at the airport, which was a super corporate business, has always had that home feel. And it's usually people I knew. When I first got into Alpine Dog as my first brewing job, I knew someone that worked there, I showed up, and I just started working. And I just worked for free, forever, to learn how it works, for a long time. So at that point, I was working 40 hours a week at my normal job, where I was managing at another brewery. And then I probably worked another 40 a week learning to brew. And I did that for a real long time. After that, I worked for another small brewery. It was definitely all small companies, like we're saying from the beginning. And it is better. The place I work now treats us like humans because it's not coming from one person to an office to another guy to me. I know the owner, and he's a really nice guy. My boss is a super nice guy, and we hang out. We don't just know each other at work. We also agree with the same things. None of us are those corporate suits or do anything like that, so the small businesses are better, yeah. If I work for a small brewery and we make a super cool IPA, we'll probably make it again because we like it, but we have small tanks and we can experiment and do more. For sure, from a work standpoint, I like knowing my boss, hanging out with him, and I also like being able to experiment when it comes to making beer in general.
Now wait just a minute. There's a crucial detail that was almost missed. We've talked to the people who make beer, but what about those who serve it? Good question. But where are we gonna find someone to answer that with such short Oh, hi, Jesse.
Hi, I am Jesse. I work here at Cogstone Brewing in Colorado Springs. Specifically, I've been in the industry for approximately 8 years. I chose breweries because I've done the whole high volume restaurants. I've done focus on just margaritas and then craft cocktails I've dabbled in. And being a mixologist, although I appreciate it, it's not quite something I had a passion for in any way, shape, or form. So I decided that my focus was going to be on craft beer. I became a craft beer drinker myself a few years ago. I sipped on my first sour and I was like, this is it. This is the beer for me. And then I went on the hunt for the perfect sour and I found it. And then I started to dabble in other craft beers and my taste buds started to acquire a certain taste. So now I can't even drink a domestic anymore. It just has to be craft beer. So I became a lover of craft beer. So I started to learn about it and wanted to work specifically in that industry. So my favorite is actually, it's a brewery in Savannah, Georgia. It's called Southbound Brewing. They have a pomegranate mango Berliner Weiss, which rings in at a 7% ABV. It was a seasonal. Sadly, they stopped making it 2 years ago. They might bring it back, they might not, but sadly with seasonals, they come and they go. You have to make room for new seasonals because you want to experiment. Brewers, of course, are constantly on the struggle to find the perfect pint. So to make room for new ones, they had to stop brewing that one. That's the great thing about brewing is they always shock you. You try something new, such as a chips and salsa beer that we serve here. Never knew that I would want and desire a chips and salsa beer, but I had it and instantly fell in love. Sometimes it's love at first sip with craft beer. I have not currently attempted making beer at home. That is something that I would want to do eventually. Right now, I'm just happy to be working with the great brewers that we have here that own this establishment and being able to see their process to understand it a bit better. I desire to learn how to do everything. Jill of all trades, I want to know a little bit about everything. I am currently in charge of the social media accounts. I do some updating on the website, but it's very limited stuff, usually the pizza that I focus on there. I do run the Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter account. Being a Jill of all trades, I am always excited to have a new opportunity to learn something. And because I've never done any kind of social media accounts for a business, I jumped at the opportunity. I saw that it was needed. And also, of course, marketing or social media accounts, having an active profile really helps bring in customers. So it's benefiting me by doing it, and it's benefiting, of course, the whole company. But I see it as an opportunity to help bring in steady business, which in turn puts money in my pockets. There's a perfect pint for everybody. Anyone who says to me that they are not a fan of beer has not found the right one yet. There are so many different styles, thousands of choices. You just haven't found the one that suits your needs. So I am a firm believer that there is a beer for everybody and everyone is a beer drinker, whether they've realized it or not. The first time I personally realized that I loved beer, I took a sip of a Lagunitas Aunt Sally at the bar I worked at. And sadly, they don't make it anymore. One of the heartbreaks in the craft beer world is things rotate so often. Sometimes they're not around for a long time. But as soon as I had it, it was just like a light bulb went off. I was like, this isn't bad. I sort of took another sip and I'm like, okay, this is it. This is the craft beer for me. And then I went on the hunt for all the sours I could possibly find. And I still go on the hunt for all the sours I can possibly find because I know that there's more out there that, need to be enjoyed.
Did we do it? Did we make you thirsty? Well, I hope so. Those of us who understand know it's hard to stay away from this nectar of the gods. And that's what makes it so exciting. Beer can be anything you think of. The possibilities are boundless, the magic continues, the taste buds are excited. So next time you choose to imbibe a delectable craft brew, remember the ones who brought it to you. For it is these unsung heroes who undoubtedly deserve the most cheers.